Some battles are won with swords, others with the roll of a dice, and sometimes the man who throws the dice holds more power than the men who wield weapons. Shakuni was born a prince of Gandhara, a land of mountains and warriors. But his destiny was entwined with Hastinapur, the mighty kingdom of the Kuru dynasty. When his sister Gandhari was married to the blind prince Dhritarashtra, Shakuni became an advisor in the royal court. But a king without sight needed someone with vision, and Shakuni saw everything. He saw the injustice, he saw the shifting balance of power, and he saw his nephew, Duryodhana, burning with jealousy. Duryodhana could not stand to see Yudhishthir, the son of Kunti and Dharmdev's, growing in influence. The respect he commanded, the loyalty of the people, and the wealth of Indraprasth. Every tribute that arrived at Yudhishthir's court, every alliance he forged, deepened Duryodhana's hatred. Yudhishthir's Rajsuya was the final spark. Kings from far and wide came bearing gifts, acknowledging Yudhishthir as their emperor. The grand assembly hall shimmered like Indra's celestial palace. To Duryodhana, it was a vision of his own defeat. The fact that Arjun won Draupadi further inflamed the situation. His anger turned to desperation. He feared that if Yudhishthir ruled unchallenged, the throne of Hastinapur would forever remain in the hands of the Pandavas' lineage. But Shakuni was no warrior in the traditional sense. His battlefield was the mind. His weapon? Manipulation? Shakuni whispered into Duryodhana's ears, feeding his resentment, shaping his ambitions. And then he made his move. Shakuni knew Yudhishthir had a weakness, a fatal flaw hidden beneath his virtue. He never refused a challenge. And so, Shakuni proposed a game, a simple game of dice. Despite the warnings of his brothers, Yudhishthir accepted. Honor demanded it. But the game was never fair. One by one, Yudhishthir lost his treasures: gold, jewels, chariots, elephants, land, then his kingdom, then his brothers, and finally, himself. Yet the game did not end. Shakuni's voice cut through the stunned silence of the court. Is there nothing left to stake? Alas, there was. With trembling hands, Yudhishthir placed his final wager. His shared wife, Draupadi. The dice rolled, and once again they obeyed their master. Draupadi was in shock. A triumphant Duryodhana ordered her to be dragged into the court, hoping to humiliate the shared wife of the Pandavas' brothers. Dusasan, Duryodhana's brother, seized her, dragging her across the floor, determined to strip her dignity before the gathered assembly. She called out to Krishna, her faith unshaken even in the face of humiliation. And in that moment, a miracle unfolded. No matter how Dusasan pulled, her garments would not end. An unseen force shielded her honor. The court fell into chaos. Some cheered, some wept. Others sat in stunned silence. Dhritarashtra was left shaken by Krishna's divine miracle. Overwhelmed by what he had just witnessed, he made a decision that stunned the court. Everything the Pandavas had lost would be returned to them. For a brief moment, justice seemed to prevail. But not everyone in the court was willing to let it end this way. Shakuni, ever the master manipulator, saw an opportunity. He reminded Duryodhana that Yudhishthir's love for the game was his greatest weakness, one that could be exploited once more. Feigning humility, they urged Dhritarashtra to allow a final rematch, one last game to settle everything. Yudhishthir hesitated, but the call of the game was too strong. He could not resist the challenge laid before him. Blinded by his addiction, he agreed. The trap was set, but this time, the stakes were far greater than mere wealth or power. As the dice came to rest, the outcome was inevitable. Yudhishthir had lost. Once again, he had wagered everything and been outplayed. The punishment was declared: 12 years in the wilderness, followed by 1 year in disguise. If the Pandavas were discovered, the exile would be extended for another 12 years. Defeated but not entirely broken, the Pandavas left the palace. Their exile had begun, and the kindling of vengeance began to spark. Though the Kauravas celebrated their victory, it was to be short-lived. By Shakuni's deceit, the Pandavas had been sent into exile for 13 years. But they would return. And when they did, the dice would no longer decide their fate. For in the end, swords would speak, and even the greatest gambler could not cheat his way out of this destiny.